The last set of sales tax corrections is under the button at the top of the menu, Other Issues. Now this particular correction is going to be a lot more complex, and you may have to listen to this video several times when you run across the different scenarios. But I'm going to look at 4 distinct repair orders, and we'll talk about the different possibilities. The first one I want to open up, when you open the report, you'll see that they're grouped up by customer. So if it's a one-time customer, there's only going to be one repair order within the group. But when we get to some of the commercial accounts, you're going to see that there'll be multiple repair orders under the same account. But this is all under one invoice. This 4170 is all one invoice. So we fix that one invoice, this will be corrected. Now these typically are going to be the ones that have no item codes. And that's an issue because if we don't have item codes, it does not actually calculate into their profit and loss statement. I'm not actually even sure how these even got to stay here, because QuickBooks will not allow you to add a dollar amount on a line that doesn't have an item code. So Mitchell 1 must have forced this in there, and so we have to correct it. Well, the first thing that we need to do is realize there's several things on this particular one that it's wrong. Number one, we do recognize this as a regular customer, so it is going to be a regular tax rate. You'll notice that all the items are listed as non-tax, which they shouldn't be. You'll notice that there is no kind of tax type in here, but it's still listed at 4.71, which is also not correct. So what we have to do is we have to fix all these plus the item codes. Now, what I have done in the past is it really doesn't make any difference in QuickBooks that we have all this detail, that it was a 6-pack 1050 belt serpentine from Bando. It really doesn't make any difference that we have all these things listed in here into accounting. It's important to have all this listed on the repair bill in the Mitchell management system so that the customer gets an itemized copy, but that's not necessary in our accounting. So the only way we can do this effectively and make it as quick as possible is to identify the basic areas in which this invoice is going to be broke out to. One of the key areas is parts. The second one is labor. Then there's going to be the probability of shop supplies. There's going to be one for hazmat, and as you're going to see a little bit later, there's going to be one for tire disposal, and then of course there's sales tax. But none of these have items. So what I would suggest doing, the easiest way, is try to make a determination of where the parts and the labor split. Now, most of the time you'll find that labor will be an even number, or 50 cents or something like that, whereas parts will have a tendency to have cents that are not whole numbers. Now that's not 100% the case, and let me tell you that it's not 100% critical that we determine this exactly perfect. So, because we're doing stuff that is history, and what we just need to do is make sure that we get this, I don't mean just don't try to do it correctly, but don't worry or fret about 1 or 2 items that don't get into the right category between parts and labor. So the first thing we want to do is we want to identify how many parts there is. There's 2 ways to do this. You could actually total these up, which I think is really slow to do it. The best way is click on the line that's right below the last part that you see on the list. And in this case, the state safety inspection at $25 is not a part. So therefore, I'm going to be right at this line. If you use the Control key, hold it down and hit the Insert key, it adds a line right at that point, right at the end of the parts. What I'd like you to do is type in SUB for subtotal and then hit Tab. What this does, this tells us how much the total parts are. So the total parts are $58.57. Now, it wouldn't be that difficult just to add these 2 items together, but it is easier, especially if you have 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 parts to do it. So this is probably the easiest way to do it. Then what we want to do is, we know it's 58.57. So what we want to do is pick parts. So we want to take PAR, and it's going to come up to parts sales. Once we do this, we're going to, let's go ahead and make sure if you get that message, click on it and say OK. And then we have parts sales, and we want to do 58.57. And we want to make sure they're taxed. And then this next line we don't want there anymore because we want the parts to actually add up to the correct amount. So what you do is hold the control key down and hit the delete key, not the D key, because the D key will delete this whole invoice. But the control plus delete key will actually just delete this line, just like the control insert key will just add a line. So now what we have is we deleted that extra part line, but we have accounted for all the parts at $58.57. And we have a subtotaling item. So now if we move down to the next break will be shop supplies, we add a line, we put SUB for subtotal, and it tells us what our total labor is going to be. And again, we only have 2 items, and it's pretty easy, almost in your head, to add up $25 plus $115. But again, it may not just be 2 little lines. So now what we want to do is type in LAB. Now labor comes up. And when we hit tab, we want this to be $140 as it was before. We change this to tax if it's not taxed already. And now we have the second line that we don't want. So we hit Control Delete key. Now we've got the labor and we got the parts accounted for. Now we have shop supplies. And all we have to do, and since there's only going to be one shop supply line, all we have to do is it's $4.99 and we hit SHO and shop supplies come up. We put $4.99 in there. And we put that as taxed if it's not already taxed. Yours probably will be taxed. Because it should have fixed it at this point. And then the next line is hazmat, so we type in HAZ. Hazmat comes up, and it was also $4.99. And we change that to taxed if it's not taxed already. So now what we do is we actually have these items that are properly taxed. But as you can see now, our taxes are starting to add up down here, which we're going to have to fix. And these don't even have any items in it as either. So what we need to do is we know that tax that we collected is $9.83. So we want to do is delete this line. We want to delete this line. And sometimes it's not easy to delete these lines. Sometimes it just literally is a constant battle to try to get rid of these lines. Couple things that happen when you're doing this. You may have to do the sales tax collected first. Which didn't work. Put sales tax collected here. What you might also find is that for whatever reason, the line doesn't even allow you to put anything in it. So go to the first line that allows it. And if it doesn't come up, go to the next line below that. If that doesn't allow that, then you go down to the next line until you can get to a line that will allow you to put that in there. And sometimes it becomes challenging to make this work. It sure is not allowing it to do it on this one. This one is actually becoming very challenging as a result of this. What I have done in the past is gone way down here at the bottom and add the sales tax paid line. But it's not coming up. Let's try changing this first. So we got that back to 0. Now this pops up by just no reason at all, but decides to pop up. Let's go up here and let's delete these things. See what we can get out of here. And let's try. Okay, now let's try this now. After I finally get them all to delete, now it does work correctly. And this is an individual person. And so we're going to put regular tax below here. And we're going to use $9.83. And it's going to give us the warning. And now it goes back to 0. So as I said, this is a lot more complex because it doesn't always want to cooperate well. So Alt-A, yes, and now we're back. I'm going to go on my list and make sure that I have this set up the same. I believe yours is set up a little bit differently than this is. Let me make sure that these are all taxed. I don't think they are on my copy from this time. I think I changed it once I brought it back over to his computer the last time. As you can see, these are all listed as tax except for these, and this is non-tax. Well, they all should actually come up with tax, and they don't, which is kind of strange. But so it looks like, I'm not sure on yours whether they'll come up non-tax automatically or whether or not they'll come up taxed. Okay, so that one is now correct, and if we look at it, it's not going to have any issues in regards to the taxing and things. This was actually, if I'm not mistaken, this is all 0. That's there. That's the amount. So this should be correct. Okay. If we hit refresh, okay, so let's move down to the next one, which is 10940. This one has got a couple of other little things to look at. This one already has a tax rate, but it also doesn't have any items. This is a regular, and all these are listed as non-taxed, which is a problem. So we will change all these to taxed. No, we won't, because that's why they didn't switch. That's actually why they didn't switch to tax, I believe. So if we change these to tax, I believe, to first, at first, I think when we do switch the line, it may actually come up automatically already taxed. Not sure 100%, but we'll see. We'll take a look. Okay, so let's see where the division of parts versus labor is. This is parts, 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 parts. Now we got a 40. That is a radiator cap. That's a part. Now we start up with remove and replace. And with whole numbers, we know all these are labor then that are listed here. Again, if there happens to be 4 or 5 labors and then there's something that looks like it's a part in between, don't worry about it. It's counted as labor because it's not going to make that much difference. Okay, so what we want to do is do the subtotal again. So we're going to hit Control Insert right here. We'll do SUB, got a subtotal. Subtotal tells us 541.68. So this first one's going to end up being 541.68. 541.68. No, it goes back to non-taxed again. Huh. So then we hit Control Delete, Control Delete, Control Delete, Control Delete. Now we're down to the parts are done. Now we go down to right above Shop Supplies, do Control Insert, put SUB. It's 369 even. So this is going to be LA, B, labor cells, 369, taxed, and then we hit Control Delete, Control Delete, Control Delete, Control Delete. So now we have the labor. We want shop supplies to be shop supplies, SUOP, 499. Taxed. And then we want hazardous waste, HAZ, 499, taxed. Change our tax rate, which will go back to 0 when we get it correctly placed. And our dollar amount is 0, but we again don't have our sales tax collected correctly. It should say sales tax corrected right here, collected here. It should put a collected here just like this, and then it should have the sales tax rate over here, but it's not. So again, let's see what we do when we try to delete here. There's nothing there to delete. So I move down to the next line, try to delete this, Control Delete. Now all of a sudden it did switch to Mitchell now. And if we look at this line right here, and we delete this one, can't delete this one there, can't delete this right there, can't delete this. So this goes another line, not there. So if I try to add the sales tax here, see what happens here. So it did fix it. It did fix it. Allowed us to do it. And then we want to do a regular rate. And where's the regular rate? Oh, typed it in the wrong place. This particular one doesn't let us put it in this drop down. It does it in this one. I think these issues with these boxes is a result of Mitchell 1 forcing these items into this invoice like this. When it does that, QuickBooks does not like that. So it's kind of messing up QuickBooks internally a little bit when it's doing that. Tax is $43.38. Amount goes back to 0. We hit enter. We hit Alt A to save and close. Yes, yes. And now that one's done. So we've done that one. Now 11876 is another one. In this case, we're looking at it, and it's got a fuel tank as one part, and we've got a remove and repair gas tank, which is the labor for the next part. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this 1436. I'm going to change this to part. I want to repaste that back in and make it taxed. And then I want to make this 460, but I want labor. And I'll put 460 here and put tax. And now I've got it there. And here's another one where I need to mess with this. And let's see what we got here. If we can even get rid of any of this stuff. The sales tax one collected is 0, but all of a sudden it allows us to put this sub sales tax on there. This one's a little easier so far. So if I take sales tax, sales tax, what is it? Sales tax collected. It adds the second line, which is no problem. We do the regular tax on this guy. This guy is a company, but he's not a wholesale company. In other words, he doesn't actually take this job and sell it to another customer. Oops, it doesn't come out exactly right. 3 cents off, so let's 89.29. Now it's back to 0. And then we hit save and close. And there's one more I want to show you, which has got the tire disposal fee on it. And it also shows you that it's under Servco Lexus, which is, as you can see, there's multiple repair orders under this particular commercial account because they do, lots of different jobs for this company. So we're looking for 108.65. 108.65. Excuse me, 103.65. 103.65. Here we are. We see that we got 5 quarts of oil. We've got an oil filter. And now we have labor. So, shop supplies and commercial tax. Okay, so let's add the line right here. Add the subtotal, which we could probably do that in our head is $44.95. Put parts here. $44.95. Taxed. Delete the next line. Move down until we get to shop supplies and we add a line. We add subtotal. It's 130.70, which we could have probably done that math in our head as well. Taxed. Delete this line. Move down to shop supplies. It's $4.99. Taxed. Hazmat, $4.99. Taxed. And I'll fix this. And back to this one. And now what we're going to do is delete this line, delete this line, and it doesn't let me actually just delete that like anything else. You have to actually do it like this. And hopefully this will. Okay, so now we're here. Let's try the sales tax collected. It creates it, no problem. This is a commercial account, COM for sales tax rate, and it was 93 cents. Oops, 0.93. Hit enter, back to 0. Now that was not the one that I was actually looking for because I wanted one that actually had the tire disposal fee. It's 103.82 has tire disposal fee. So let's go through this one as well. So we open this one. We can see that we have wiper blades, some kind of sale, something, 226. Rear wiper blades, 108.04. Standard oil filter at $5. 5 quarts of oil at $19.95. Another air filter at $34.86. And then we have a conventional oil and filter. That starts the labor at 2070. So let's go ahead and add subtotal line. So it's going to be $319.85. So and we hit delete, 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 delete. Now we go down to shop supplies and we add a line. We add subtotal, and it's $229.70. Then we delete, 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 delete. Shop supplies, we want to take $4.99. Looks like they have a standard charge of $4.99 for tax supply. Now I also, if you notice, that I'd forgotten to change this $229.70 to taxable. Don't forget that. And my hazardous waste, $4.99, taxed. Now we have a tire disposal fee, and I'm afraid that I don't have it in here. It is in yours. It's actually in your particular version. And under Mitchell. So all you're going to have to do is type in tire disposal, or TIR most likely, and it will pop up. It is taxed, and there should already be a income account that I have here for tire disposal fee. So it should be all. I think it's already set up in yours anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. So now so if I was just to type in TIR, tire disposal fee is going to come up. Hit tab. It was $15, I believe. It was actually. Let's change this right now to this. Back to this. So it's $15 for the tire disposal fee, except for what's going to happen is, since it was listed on there most likely as non-taxed, the sales tax is 52 cents that we collected. Let's go ahead and I go all the way down to here. So this one's actually got 2 tax fees in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete everything we can delete out of here. This one doesn't delete well, not being nice. Now we go up to this one. That one doesn't want to delete very well. Let's try this one. This one doesn't want to delete easy. So let's go ahead and go up to here and see what this does. And let's see if we can get rid of this now. Okay, so now let's see if we can add the sales tax collected in here. And it does. Now this is a commercial account, so the total amount of tax will be the remaining negative amount, $3.34. So as you can recognize, some of these you had fixed a lot of those before, but unfortunately because it didn't have any items, you never saw them at the beginning. So now we have everything correct on this one. We hit save, and yes, and it's it. So those are really the types of transactions that you're going to do. The hardest part's going to be is determining where the parts and the labor begin. Shop supplies, hazardous waste, tire disposal are really the only other 3 items that are on it except for the sales tax. And then you'll have a little bit of difficulty trying to get rid of those lines. Now what I had to do to get rid of the lines, I first of all tried to delete the lines by just using a control delete on the line. And it seems like if I start down to the line below it, and if I do that, I can get rid of it. But when you get to some of these, you have to just go right to it to there, and you have to then either use your backspace to remove it, or you have to delete it a couple of times. It's just I don't know exactly why it becomes so difficult at times, but that seems to be something that it does. Now in this case right here, there's no parts. It's $110 in labor, $4.99 for the shop supplies, and $4.99 for hazardous waste. So all we really have to do is change this to labor. And once we change this to labor and put the 1110, change this to tax, we do this shop supplies and do 4.99 taxed, and we do this hazardous waste, $4.99 taxed. Now I can go down here and add the sales tax collected. Change my rates here and go back. And now I can just add the commercial. And it looks like it's going to be 60 cents. Control or Alt A to save, hit yes, yes, and we're done. So going through these, you're going to have to go through them from the top to the bottom because they don't disappear like they did before. So you're going to have to literally just do one, do the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So this should help you on this one. I think this one's going to take the most complexity on how to fix it. I don't think it will take you quite as long because, number one, I don't think there are in a lot of them in every month, and then I think it stops once we get to March of last year. So it's going to be just the there goes to well, it's hard to tell, but it doesn't seem like there is as many. Plus, of course, even though there's a lot of lines, it may represent just one repair order. So let me know. What's going to end up happening is once these are done, our sales tax revenue form, our report, will not have these extra columns of things in it that shouldn't be there. So if you have any questions, just text me. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.